In our first story tonight, some civil society organizations in the country are calling for concerted efforts to convince government to keep the Tiwa forest in its natural state. Government in the 2017 budget statement revealed intentions to develop an integrated aluminum industry and also mine bauxite deposits within the Tiwa Forest Reserve. Now, project coordinator for the Tropimboss Ghana, Wache Chumesi Ankra, says the CSOs are impressing on government the need to desist from moves to mine in the Tiwa Forest Reserve.
Since government intervention to mine in the Tiwa forest were made public, environmentalists have argued the country will pay a huge price for the proposed $50 million Ghana-China joint venture should government go ahead with its plans. They believe the Tiwa forest will generate additional financial resources for the state. Though the advocacy has received little impact, the civil society organizations say they will continue to push for the forest to remain in its natural state.
In the long term, the GLA program as a whole is looking at helping maintain the remaining forests of Ghana, and so trying to prevent further destruction but protecting and conserving what is already left, both the forest resources, water resources, what has been destroyed, if possible trying to restore, and also keeping what has not been touched.
He said this during a capacity building of the media and civil society on forestry and mining laws, which recognizes the devastating nature of deforestation and environmental degradation in Ghana. It is in partnership with Arocha Ghana, Friends of the Earth, and Tropimboss Ghana under the Green Livelihoods Alliance program. Mr. Chumesi Ankra says the move is aimed at ensuring sustainable and inclusive management of the remaining forests through integrated approach.
It's geared towards ensuring sustainable forest landscapes in Ghana, and the strategy that we are using is using advocacy and lobby so that people in power will act responsibly and also do what is right by enforcing the laws that are existing. And so we, using advocacy and lobby, need to have the media on board. But if the media is coming on board, they should know what is right and what is wrong, so that they could raise the necessary red flags when the wrong things are being done.
One of the facilitators, a law lecturer, Clement Kojo Akapami, said the disregard and blatant breaching of Ghana's forest and mining laws can only be curtailed if regulatory agencies have the willpower to strictly enforce these laws.
What we need to do is to work towards enforcement. Particularly in the forest sector, we can move towards consolidating all our forest laws, putting them into one comprehensive legislation that will draw a link between all the aspects of forestry, tenure, ownership, benefit sharing, so that we have a clear legal regime. When it comes to the mining side, we have the Minerals and Mining Act as a sole act of parliament, and also we have certain subsidiary legislation. So we have a number of laws that are helping us. I think that we should work more towards enforcement, and that will bring us more returns than having to look at new laws. They are there. We need to have the will to enforce the laws. Once the laws are there and the law says if you do A, it's a breach, and these are the consequences.
Prince Apia reporting.
Now, moving on, some tilapia sellers in Accra are lamenting the current media reports about the presence of tilapia lake virus in the country. They say the situation is impacting negatively on sales, even though the announcement has not been confirmed by the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture. The news has spread like wildfire. The speculation has left the tilapia stands virtually empty. Charles Aite has been gauging the census and now reports.
There is this perception out there that tilapia in Accra is poisonous. Now, this has not been confirmed by the Fisheries Commission either, but we get to speak to these market women on how this is really affecting their business. And I have here one such woman, and I'm going to be speaking through with her, after which I do make the translation. And so, who can say tilapia no? Many feel say poison woman.
Sana omu nyina omu fi say points omu. Em say time asama ne ba ya omu say omu yi wo TV so say enam no tilapia na enye nto omu fi say tilapia nyina na points ne wo mu. Enti wo fa se no kuro wo nyame anim ye hwedwa ade nyame.
A concerned tilapia seller, she's saying that ever since the announcement was made regarding the tilapia virus across several African countries, including that of even the West, the perception has been very ill. So many buyers are just refraining from buying tilapia because of this scare that the fishes here could be infected by this virus. But as we have stated, the Fisheries Commission is yet to confirm there are no cases of such, infestations. But before that, let's speak to this gentleman.
It's affecting the market seriously. We supplying cannot even bring fish to them because it's not moving. Everybody is turning off from buying tilapia because of this perception of this virus in tilapia. So nobody is buying. I've been here with them for so many hours here, and you can see here nobody is here to buy tilapia, and it's affecting their business. Being affected. When you come to my cold room, I have a lot of tilapia in my cold room in which I'm not able to sell.
All right, thank you very much, George. So you did hear from George and, of course, other tilapia sellers in that regard. We shall be engaging the Association of Tilapia Farmers on this critical situation, especially when we're having the sale of tilapia here in Accra and even beyond the country in jeopardy following this whole scare of the tilapia virus. So following the various concerns by tilapia sellers, we've been joined by the president of the Aquaculture Association of Ghana and the person of Jennifer Soji to help us understand what exactly is happening regarding the tilapia farming business here in Ghana. So thank you very much, ma'am, for your time here with us. First of all, have you heard about the tilapia virus and its, rippling effects on the tilapia industry in Ghana today?
Yes, I've heard about the tilapia lake virus. That is, what's the name? It's been found in countries like Egypt and other Asian countries. We don't have that virus in Ghana.
Help us understand, before this interaction, you were talking to me about several people cancelling orders for tilapia. Expatiate on that one for us.
Yes, it's just the same thing that happened when Ebola was discovered. People made so much noise about it, and there was no Ebola in Ghana. We reduced the tourists coming into this country because of the noise we were making. We lost so much in terms of foreign revenue because of all this Ebola issue. The same thing we are doing with tilapia now. There were a lot of international conferences coming in, and people called the various hotels and restaurants cancelling their tilapia diet, saying they don't want tilapia in their menu. Reason being that they've had the tilapia lake virus in Ghana, and there is no tilapia lake virus in Ghana.
Many thanks, Madam Soji. She is the president of the Aquaculture Association of Ghana. The message is very clear. The scare is uncalled for, and there is no kind of a piece of tilapia that has been affected by the tilapia lake virus. We shall be following closely these developments to give you updates in the future as and when we do have them.
Very interesting story. Daryl, do you love tilapia?
I'm not a fish person, but I can understand the concerns being raised by these sellers. The rumor of a virus potentially affecting sales, and so I can feel their pain.
And you know that thing happened when we had the Ebola scare as well, and then the local people were making a lot of noise. They felt that there was too much sensationalism out there, and people were actually scared of their point. It actually affected their sense. That's the same thing we are having with tilapia. Quite unfortunate.
Yeah,
but
and I guess the question then is whether or not there's a virus. Well, the Fisheries Ministry is denying the presence of the tilapia lake virus in the country. In an interview, Director of the Fish Health Unit of the Fisheries Commission, Dr. Peter Zida, indicated the partial ban on tilapia importation and other colorful fish used as pets in ponds was to safeguard the environment against a possible outbreak of the virus.
If there will be an extension, then it means that we have found a disease. But as at now, we have not found a disease. And we are doing our best to protect our environment and protect our fish, both in culture and in the wild. In the wild, when I mean those fishes that we are not culturing, because the very moment, the bulk of our fish farming is done on the Volta Lake. And so if we should have an introduction of the disease into the Volta Lake, then we are doomed, because controlling it becomes difficult. Look at what we are having with the bird flu. Every now and then, it looks as if the disease is becoming endemic in the society, in our environment, which is very bad for us. Already we are constrained. That is costing us over $200 million to supplement our fish stocks, both from the wild and from the culture side. So with the tilapia introduction of the virus, it means that we would have to, how do you call it, spend more money importing tilapia, you see. And mind you, it's not only the import. Don't let us look at the import. Already the emerging industry in Ghana is taking about 600,000 people in employment.
Meanwhile, the Fisheries Commission, together with the Aquatic Farmers Association of Ghana, will tomorrow embark on a sensitization workshop with tilapia farmers and sellers on the tilapia lake virus. This workshop will also see officials of the Commission allay fears of the virus on the Ghanaian market. Sandra.
Yes, Dario. Moving on to the next story, and the Association of Ghana Industries, AGIA, has joined calls for more local banks in the country to merge in order to have a stronger financial base. The AGIA is lauding current reforms by the Central Bank, but cautioned against they must have the implementation cautiously in order not to lose many of the local banks to foreign ownership. Vice President of the AGIA, Humphrey Nyimdake, in an interview with Joy Business, noted the 3 local banks in the country must merge to obtain the necessary support from government.
Indigenous banks, we have always stated that it falls into the same concept of the local content issue. We are not against the indigenous banks doing well. However, in the financial industry, it's a sensitive industry, such that rules and the regulations that operate in the said industry must be well regulated. Currently, it's been stated that the percentage of the indigenous banks in terms of their market share is still very small as compared to the foreign banks. Our hope is that a number of the indigenous banks, as stated by the governor, will be willing to merge to create a few big banks as against a few smaller banks that their impact it's not very effective. We encourage them to come together. We are still in for the indigenous bank growing 2, 3, 4 significant indigenous banks that could have the real effect or impact in the financial space is what we desire, not multiplicity of small ones that the aggregate impact will not be felt accordingly. Once that is so, as stated by the president, they are willing to support this indigenous bank grow with various financial products that will make them robust and strong. So we are in for that. Nonetheless, we believe the reforms it's necessary to bring about this desired goal. And once we get this, we believe that will change the financial industry.
In other news tonight, directors of UT, Capital and Unibank may struggle to take up new jobs in the banking sector. The new fit and proper directive released by the Bank of Ghana appears to be giving some confirmation to an earlier report by Joy Business. But what has influenced this move by the central bank? There's more in the following report.
The draft directive seeks to ensure that only persons that are fit are allowed to work and operate in the banking space. According to the Bank of Ghana, the fit and proper supervision prevents individuals who pose a risk to the banking sector from being appointed. There is a portion of the directive, for instance, which states that persons that have contributed significantly to failure of an organization or involved in any business that might pose as conflict of interest may all struggle in getting their requests granted by the Bank of Ghana. The new directive will not only cover directors but also shareholders of those institutions and will be subject to the required scrutiny as well. It also states that to be approved as director or managing director, that person should have served in that role for 10 years.
Management of ARB Apex Bank is calling on government to reduce tax rates on rural and community banks. Corporate tax charged on rural and community banks currently stands at 25%, which industry players say is milking their profits. The trend is also affecting dividends paid on shareholders and the ability to advance loans. Managing Director of ARB Apex Bank, Kojo Martha, says the situation is affecting investments of rural and community banks to their catchment communities.
And we also want to appeal to government to also consider the tax rate on rural and community banks. We know every company is subjected to a tax rate of 20-25%. If rural banks can be given a special dispensation, say reducing the tax rate to about 10 or 12%, the difference could be used for special development in the specific communities in which they operate. I believe that will be a sure way of encouraging the banks to invest more into the communities in which they operate.
You're still watching Business Live. Now, by 1,000 young entrepreneurs are to receive soft loan facilities this month under the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Plan. Potential beneficiaries will receive between 10,000 and 100,000 Ghana cedis each, depending on the scope of their project at 10% interest rate. Additionally, the initial $10 million package earmarked for the project, which will include 1,000 females, has been increased to $100 million. Love FM's Kwesi Debra reports.
Minister for Business Development, Dr. Mohamed Awar, spoke at the CEO's breakfast meeting of Ghana Employers Association in Kumasi. He says government will soon announce a similar package for what it describes as established but struggling businesses. He believes the measure will cushion the industry to realize government's Ghana Beyond Aid agenda.
My ministry has devoted a lot of money to support young people. $10 million, we're increasing to $100 million to support entrepreneurs. Very soon, we are going to support 1,000 of them. In fact, this month, access to cheap loans, very affordable loans of about 10%. 48% of young people in this country are not working. They finish school, 120,000 finish tertiary institutions every year. Less than 10,000 get jobs in the public sector. The 110,000 must find jobs in the private sector. So none of those governments wants to improve the private sector, and you are the private sector. One, create an enabling environment, a conducive environment to enable the private sector to work. That's why we are working hard to stabilize the macroeconomic environment. Under my ministry, we are trying to create a fund, the NEP fund, to support you people. Now we have a fund for the young people. The next one supports the big entrepreneurs.
Dr. Arwa charged business owners to put succession plans in place to ensure their businesses survive through generations. Corporate governance structure, financial and managerial competence are noted as critical in business survival. Dr. Awa promised massive road infrastructure and railway development to promote sub-regional economic activities.
We are going to do massive infrastructure. We are doing roads, we are doing railway across the country. We want to link West Africa together. West Africa has 350 million people.
Chairman of Ashanti Regional Advisory Committee of the Employers Association and Chief Executive of Aspi Pharmaceuticals, Abosu Amponsa Kodia, warns government to support ongoing pharmaceutical-grade cassava starch research. The initiative is being carried out by the Department of Pharmaceutics of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He believes the project has the potential to reduce Ghana's import bill on cornstarch for manufacture of drugs.
Starch imported into the country for use by the pharmaceutical and food industry. You know that government stands to gain a lot if your office can fast track this initiative by getting investors to partner industry and the academia in adding value to maize for use in the local pharmaceutical and food industry on a large scale. Also, with the supply of about 50 restricted medicines by local pharmaceutical companies, if your outfit can collaborate with the Ministry of Health, where local company can supply one item each of the restricted drugs. Medicines that are supplied for use by our hospitals can be available and affordably cheaper.
He asked government to pay attention to maize and soybean production as shortage continues to plague the poultry industry. Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
Now, the Public Interest Accountability Committee, PIAC, says it has found out that the price of the Chinubua and Rand to make 10 crude for Ghana Group was lower than the estimated benchmark price. PIAC says the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, needs to take a second look at its pricing and marketing policy for TEN to eliminate the significant price difference from that of Jubilee. We have on the line Chairman of PIAC, Dr. Steve Mantia, for further explanation to this. Can you throw more light on this concern that PIAC is raising?
Right. Thank you very much. And we want to say good evening to your listeners. In the industry, one thing that we do to ensure that our achieved prices are fair and commensurate with the quality of the product is to benchmark it. And so given the quality of the Ghana crude, both for Jubilee and TEN, which is sweet light crude, we decided to find a comparable, which is the UK Brent. And so over the period, we compare our achieved prices with that of Brent. Now, our analysis shows that for some time now, since TEN came into production, consistently, the achieved price for Brent has been way below the achieved price for the TEN project crude has been below the Brent achieved price. Even if you compare what we achieved for TEN projects with that of Jubilee, you find significant differences, sometimes about $4-5 per barrel.
So how can we ensure, the GNPC ensure that there is uniformity in crude oil sales from Ghana's hydrocarbon projects?
Well, the way you do that is to ensure that the approach you're using for Jubilee, which is giving you a much higher price per barrel, is the same approach. You're selling the same quality of product on the international market, and one is giving you a higher value, a higher achieved price. It makes sense to apply the same strategy to get a higher value for the other product, which is of similar quality. And so we actually, first of all, let me say that we're suspecting that there must be something untoward happening. If it is not, then we don't see why we will not actually reevaluate the strategy to achieve the same or comparable price for TEN projects.
All right, thanks very much for your time tonight. That was Dr. Steve Mantia. He's the chairman of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee. Sandra has our interview of the day. Sandy?
Well, the announcement of the temporary ban on tilapia and orientation on fish farming by the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture seems to have caused some panic among consumers of tilapia in the country. So far, the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture has come out to ensure the public there's no outbreak of tilapia lake virus in the country. Society has more.
There's no tilapia lake virus in Ghana. Nothing like that has been found. So the public can be rest assured there's nothing wrong with tilapia which is produced in Ghana. It is healthy and it is safe to eat.
Is there a way by which one could identify a piece of tilapia that has been infested by the tilapia lake virus?
There's no lake virus in Ghana, so there's no way you'll be able to even identify it. And this tilapia lake virus doesn't affect humans. It doesn't affect humans. There's nothing to worry about. Tilapia is safe to eat. It's very safe. In fact, it's safer than most of the fishes coming from outside. If we are bringing fish from outside, we don't know if it has any lake virus. That's what we should be talking about. But tilapia produced in Ghana, produced in our lake, is very safe.
Are you concerned about this ill perception and how it's affecting the business of tilapia in Ghana?
Oh yes, we are all concerned about this ill perception. It's very sad that Ghanaians don't read very well. The press release stated there's a lake virus, which they are trying to inform the public about. This virus is not in Ghana. Unfortunately, most Ghanaians have not read the whole thing. They just saw the heading and then they drew their own conclusions, which the public and also agencies have to realize that that's what Ghanaians do. So based on that, when they are trying to send out a report, it should be done very well to avoid issues that we are having as at now.
Well, so that's our interview for the day, and as you're aware,
I guess we'll be talking about tilapia.
Yes, of course.
In the days to come. But that's it for our program tonight.
Yes.
Thanks for watching Business Live. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. I'm back tomorrow with Sandra Afenu.
Of course, I'll be here. My name is Sandra Esanamapenu. Thanks for watching.